a lot of people will say like, oh, like I want this, this, and that, like from a partner. But are you even doing that with yourself? Like, are you? Because some people want all these things and they have this huge like wish list, but they're not even doing it within themselves. So your most important relationship, I would say, is with yourself and the spiritual. Like if you are spiritual.
Welcome, everybody, to the Rally Cry podcast. My name is Angel.
And my name is Tyler.
And you guys are here because you want to learn, you want to grow, you want to move from the past and live in this moment. And in this moment, we got a guest. Yes.
Ooh. Spotlight.
Yes.
Spotlight.
And before I introduce you to the guest, I just want to make sure that you guys follow us on Instagram at The Rally Cries, and also follow us on your favorite podcast platform. If there's anything that we haven't talked about or talked about enough, let us know. So I'm going to introduce the person that we have here today. Our guest today is someone that believes in working together, can and will build a tribe of abundance. She has a nutritious mindset that created bite-sized delights called Tribe Power Bites that will give you energy to power through your day. Her resilience is admirable, and being a single mother of one and making a great impact of those around her. Everyone, welcome Kim Prada.
Hello. Thank you guys for having me on here. I really appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate, you coming. I'm excited. And honestly, Kim Prada sounds like a famous person's name. I don't know. That's just me. Like Kim Prada.
It's Prada, bro. That name is luxurious. The last name. Gotcha.
For real, literally.
Thank you.
So yeah, I'm really excited for you being here today. And from our last conversation, we were talking about vulnerability a lot. But before I get into that, I think I love the fact that, your business is called Tribe, essentially, in it. Because when me and Tyler named The Rally Cry, it's about community. And you're really big on community. So when you hear community or tribe, what do you think about?
I would say just like a village. So for me, I've always lacked community or a tribe, and I felt like it was just the perfect thing to give back to the people that supported me. And a lot of people supported me during this time, and they weren't even like my blood, they weren't like my family, and my family did help me, like some of them, but a lot of people who were supporting me were strangers, and I didn't know what really community was. So I was like, what does this feel like? Like, why do I feel like these people are my family, but they're not actually like my blood family? And then honestly, I have a relationship with God. So I really prayed about it. And I was just like, God, what do I name my business? Like, I know I have a business now. Can you just sharpen a certain name that is going to really stick with me throughout my business? And I remember just having like a dream, and then I woke up and I was like, the name like Tribe it has to be Tribe. And I wanted to give back to those that gave back to me. And, I named my business Tribe.
I love that.
Even though that's not like the full story. I didn't know if you wanted me to go into.
I mean, of course, you could give us the whole story. I was going to ask you anyway.
Yeah, ask me.
I was going to say, you had that dream. Essentially, was there a story behind that? Like before you even wanted to think about making a business, was there something going on in your life or anything that you want to, express that it was a part of the reason why you wanted to do this?
Yeah, so I always tell everybody that entrepreneurship and business came to me. Like, I was not looking to being an entrepreneur. I had no intellect about business. Like, I was always taught to either go to school or do a trade or work. But I don't know anybody who was a business owner. I was at my lowest of lowest rock bottoms in 2019, and then it turned into 2020. So I went from being a stay-at-home mom to a single mom, and like everybody knows, being a stay-at-home mom, people may think that it's luxurious just because you have someone who's, working for the household, but it actually is really lonely. And I had my daughter. I was a stay-at-home mom full-time, and then me and her father decided to split. So we ended up splitting. We parted our ways, but we still co-parent. But the thing with being a stay-at-home mom, like when I left, I made that decision, and I had no job, no place to stay, no money, like no car, nothing, just me and my daughter. And I had to really humble myself during that period because I asked my mom if she could take me back in because, originally I moved out right when I turned 18. And I was like, I never want to come back home because I just didn't feel love within my home.
Mm.
So I went and I moved in with my daughter's father. We were together for 4 years and then we split. And yeah, so I humbly went back to my mom, but I really think that that all happened with a purpose because it restored my relationship with my mom, and she was the one that probably hurt me the most.
Mm.
And she did her best. She was like the best mom. Now that I see it, when you have your own kids, you're gonna see it. Like everything comes in full circle. And
Mm.
I moved back in with her, and I was already making these bites just for myself, like as a healthier snacking alternative. When you have a baby, specifically women, like you're hungry all the time, especially if you're breastfeeding, like you're starving. And I just wanted to make a healthier snacking alternative while I was on the go, and I actually donated some to my mom's church, just for this bake sale. and
Mm.
and then I gave her some for her job, and she came back home and she was like really eager to tell me like, hey, I think you should start a business with these bites. And at the time I was really like ignorant. I was like, no, mom, like I need a full-time job, like I need a real job, because I didn't know that I could even make this like a job. And this was January of 2020, so we just celebrated 4 years like
Mm.
last week. So this is right before COVID started.
Right.
And yeah, so then COVID hit, and then the stimulus check came out in March, I believe, or April, around that time. And she's like, I
Hmm.
think that this is a good time for you to start the business. Because I had like no money, I had nothing. And I remember being interviewed at least 15 times during 2020, and I
Mm.
didn't get any job. And then I was like, okay, so I'm going to invest in myself. So I used the stimulus check to get like the licensing, the food licensing, the taxes, all that stuff. And then at the end of 2020, I had my own apartment, my own car, and Tribe has been my full-time job since 2020, which is pretty crazy to think that. Yeah, yeah, it's so crazy.
Wow. If that's not the greatest comeback story from COVID,
It's so
like
crazy.
still the challenges are there. You know, you choose your difficult, and the fact that you had that assistance and support, like I think it's great because, you know, even though there was a departures, as you said, because where there's death, there's also birth, and it was a new chapter that was ready for you, and you just had to be ready for it, and it just all came together. So I think that was beautiful.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I appreciate the understanding of when things really hit rock bottom is the best time to reflect. And I think a lot of times, people in our generation, right, if you're around, in your early 20s, mid 20s, we kind of resort to instant gratification as far as like going out, being around people that don't really appreciate you, support you, and all these other things, and then we get confused. But in that time, especially during COVID, is where all you can do is really just be by yourself and kind of just think about, okay, now what? What do I do?
Right.
Rather than saying, oh, why me? Why this has to happen to me? It's kind of like, okay, you know, I need to figure something out, especially, you having a child at your age. You have to think about like, I got responsibility, a higher purpose. And,
Hmm.
with that happening, it makes you be like, okay, all these things that's happened is like, oh, this is crazy. Because, if you're making things
Yeah.
on your own, you wouldn't think you could make a business out of it, right?
No, I didn't think. And now that we're speaking about this like out loud, every time I hear it out loud, it's like so crazy to even fathom that I went through that period, because now I'm 25. At the time I was 20 or 21,
Mm.
and I never had one of those like going out periods, because obviously I became a mom young, but I also um had morals, like, and they have always were instilled in me by my mom. So I'm the youngest of four, and she was a single mom of four, so I was like, if she can do
Mm.
that, four children, like I
Mm.
can definitely like do one or whatever. And I feel like if I didn't have that rock bottom, which that was like the most rock bottom, like the most that I felt low, the most that I just wasn't sure of myself, I feel like having my daughter really, really made me a selfless person, because I think before I was really more about like, oh, it's about me. I was really selfish and more just about me. And oh my gosh, like becoming a parent has humbled me so much, because I have a greater purpose than just myself. And if anything, like I think before I used to care about how I looked, how I dressed, just a lot of hollow things that don't even matter. Now I'm
Mm.
like, I don't care if anyone sees me like with no makeup or whatever the case is. And I think that I know it's so funny, because like girls now, or women or whatever, they'll be like, oh, like no one's gonna see me without makeup. But it really is like you have to go through an awakened period. And I want to say like 2020 and like 2019, well, when I shifted into 2020, that was like the rebirth of me, of like Kim Prada. Like it was just catalyst, and I could never see myself going back to who I was before because I don't even recognize her. Like, I actually deleted so many pictures of my past because I didn't want to look that way anymore. And so now I have a lot of just recent pictures. And I remember my sister's like, well, what are you going to show to your daughter and all these things? And I was like, I just want to move forward. Like, I don't want to keep looking in the past because honestly, like, I was really miserable and just anxious and depressed during those times. But obviously I made like a way out of it, but I don't want to look at that anymore. Like, I just see ahead.
I really resonate with that because with the podcast is essential to how it was for me as well. Like 2 years ago is when we made the podcast, and it was when I was in my darkest moment, right? But sometimes you had to be in that dark room in order to see the light. You know what I mean? Because we can't appreciate the light. We've never been in the dark. You know what I mean? So it's like a balance of the two. And for me, it was where I had times where I would just sit and all I did was think for myself. I was in a relationship, a long-term relationship, and then after that, it wasn't working out. And so I was like, okay, who am I, right? I had an identity with this person, and now that I'm not with this person anymore, it's like, okay, who am I now? And so trying to use my voice in some form of way. I've always been a very vocal person, always loved learning, always loving to, give back in some form of way with knowledge. And I've known Tyler for, 13 years. It was kind of like, I always was in the video production area. And I was like, why not start a podcast, talk about mental health? Because in that moment, I was going through mental health issues. So being able to, find your moment and that awakening is so important, because that's how it felt for myself. Is like 2 years ago, I don't even know who I was. I don't even want to look back at that either, because if I do, I'm like, who is this guy? He's annoying. I don't even want to listen to him. So I love that you say that, because, that's essentially what everybody has to go through, a form of being aware of like, okay, you know what? I'm tired of this. I don't want to go through this anymore. I'm done hurting. I kind of just want to find my purpose, and purpose is literally, whatever you're passionate about and is able to give service to others. And that's exactly what you did. You felt passionate about it. You was already doing it, and now it's giving back to the people that you care about, the people that supported you. So I think that's really what it's about. And I think when it comes to that area, I think we don't have a lot of people, but thankfully you had some form of representation. Your mother was able to represent. She had a certain lifestyle, and you was like, oh well, if you had 4 children and I have 1, I know I can do it. Is there anything else that you may have told yourself in the process of getting out of those dark times? Because a lot of times we be so blindsided of where we're going, and we don't talk to ourselves nice. Is there anything that you told yourself consistently to keep going?
Yeah, I always was saying like better days are coming. Like, I remember saying that. I remember praying, screaming. At the time, like, I wasn't so I grew up Christian my whole life, right? And then I kind of parted away from that at 18, so like a few years, so like 4 or 5 years when I was going through that period. And then right now I kind of have been dipping my toes back into that. And but I always believed in God, and I always believed that, whenever I would have hard times, I would just pray. And it wouldn't, like, praying isn't just like, it's not beautiful all the time. Like, I would be screaming, I would be like going crazy, and be like, God, what are you doing, like, and all these things. But there was always a purpose behind that. So I just remember always saying like better days are coming, like, because I would see the results. So like whenever I would see like something good happen to me, like that I thought was not even going to happen or possible, I'm like, okay, so somebody has to be real, because they're hearing me and like granting me like what I'm asking for. So but those times, like, to be honest and like being transparent, a lot of those times were spent crying, and a lot of those times were spent, like, it wasn't positive. Like, I was not a positive person. I just remember always crying asleep, crying when I would wake up, because now I had like my daughter. Like, she was a baby, granted, but if I can't fail, because then like she's gonna fail, and that really is how it is. It's everything's like a cause and effect, right? So I really had to be on top of everything, even though I was stressed. I was more on an autopilot like mindset, because I just knew that whatever results that I would put in for my work, like, that's what I would get back. So anything positive, I always knew like better days were coming, so I always would say that. But honestly, a lot of the times were just spent being sad, but the sadness actually kind of was worth it, because in the end, like, it kept me just humble. And like, I always would say, don't forget like where you came from. Actually, that's what I would say. I always would say, don't forget where you came from. And I still say that today, because I have more now than I did back then, but I'm not done. Like, none of it is done. So never forget where you come from at all, and never forget who granted that for you, if you are religious or believe in a higher power.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think a lot of times a form of religion comes somewhere. You know, you don't have to be religious, let's say Christian,
Right,
Catholic, or
right.
whatever. But I truly believe, because my family's Catholic, but I truly believe that religion still comes its way to the people that are really trying to work on themselves. Because without having, you know, affirmations like what you tell yourself and believing to see where you're going to go, if you just want to see to believe, then you're just going to be blinded and think that everything that you see is for what it is. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like telling yourself, you know, better days are coming, or one step at a time, or just one more day, and just having that sense of understanding that, you know, this is temporary, this is not going to last forever. And you keep telling yourself that you're able to, you know, go against the grain, because sometimes things happen bigger than you can ever imagine. And that's what makes life so fulfilling, because it's like, oh, I didn't even expect this. Oh my God. Ah. So I think too, when it comes to that area, you know, you coming out of relationship, which I can relate, and there's so much solitude that you have, you kind of have to be independent in a sense. What does independence mean to you?
Before I answer that, I'm going to piggyback off of what you just said real quick
Yeah.
about like saying the affirmations and stuff like that. I think that having an awakened mindset, that's a choice. And I never would give myself affirmations. Like, it was always negative, right? Or I wouldn't even think like that. There are actual people out there that don't even think like any of us, which is crazy, right? They live just on autopilot, like day to day. They're not even thinking that deep. And I actually was one of them until that time frame. So um being an awakened like person is just a choice, and I think a lot of people will not get that unless they make that choice. So it's so crazy, because some people think they're woke, but they're not really woke.
I know what you mean.
You know, one thing I like to say is, along with having an awakened mindset, is almost similar to like having a surrendering ego, because ego gets in the way of so many of the things that we do. And, you know, to be able to say like you're humble enough to trust yourself, to be honest that you know what you need to do. And with that comes discipline, which that goes into so many other things. So it just builds on, it's like the snowball effect. You know, you start small, but the more that you build those atomic habits, everything just keeps on falling in place, and it gets better after that.
That's a good book, Atomic Habits.
Yep.
But also,
It is.
also too, the ego thing. Like, I didn't even know what ego was, but I remember being like really bonded to my ego. And your ego really needs to die and surrender for you to even reach an awakening.
Yes.
Like,
Thank
it has
you.
to die. But again, that comes with even surrendering to yourself. Well, you have to. It's you versus you every day, right? So
Mhm.
you have to surrender yourself, your ego, this sense of control, because our ego just wants control. Our ego wants like reassurance constantly. But a lot of that stems off of how we were raised, though, like your childhood, right?
Oh
So,
my God.
Somebody
Yes.
understands. Somebody.
Yes.
I know you want me to talk about independence, but like,
No,
you have-
no, it's okay. You're still saying some facts. I'm snapping my fingers right now. ASMR.
No, this is a poetry slam right now. She's going in.
I actually like write poetry too, which is cool.
Stop.
We write poetry
Stop.
too.
Okay, we gotta see.
All right, we got you. We got you.
No, but these are things that I was not aware of before, and I think a lot of people are not aware, which is why I say the autopilot thing, because I went to therapy and then I broke up with my therapist because I was like, yo, I can do this. Like, I can actually, like, a higher frequency is like you believing that you can do this on your own and you don't need someone to help you get there, which granted, like, it was great.
Right.
But I always thought, like, we like to normalize like dysfunction, and it's so crazy because
Oh
like,
my God, yes.
I grew up with the most dysfunctional family, but then I thought that this was just normal. And being Puerto Rican, being Hispanic, like, you just think that trauma is normal because they normalize it and stuff.
Yes.
And I mean, I don't know if it's the same Tyler, for like the Black community? Well, you're half and half, right? So it's
Yeah. Well, I'm Black, Jamaican, and Puerto Rican, so I get a little bit of everything besides the Jamaican part. But I think it's good that you say that, because then along with that goes with trauma bonding, and I think especially in the Hispanic side of the world, that happens a lot, especially like when it's with your grandmother. Because
yeah.
it's not most of the time, like it's either you're with your mom or your grandmother. It's not really, and if the father's there, that goes into the other percentages. But like the idea of trauma bonding, like it's such a strong bond that you would think it's easy to let go or want to walk away, but because that pain is a lot more stronger to hold on to because of what it does to you, and because you can't let that go, you feel like there's nothing else besides that pain.
Well, because you feel responsible, because you were taught to be responsible for other people's pain, which is why the trauma bonding occurs. And even at least for me, like codependency was a huge thing for me because so my mom had 2 boys, 2 girls, right? And we came from more of like a physical and mental abusive background. Like even Hispanics, I mean, we would get hit for anything, right? Like, but there was no explanation as to why we're experiencing this. It's just like, okay, like I'm the parent, you're the kid, that's it, right? And now I'm like reparenting myself and like my daughter, because my daughter will never have to experience that because I don't do that. I now like take the time to explain, and I know that maybe it takes longer to explain what you're doing or why you're doing it, but it's just so much worth it, because even if I don't see it now, like she's gonna grow up and remember, oh, okay, like I didn't really have trauma. Maybe she'll have trauma for something else, but it's not physical. And I'm now 25 years old, and I still am healing from like the physical abuse. I'm still healing from the mental abuse, like even with choosing partners, right? Like that has been hard. I mean, I only will choose like relationships. I'm not like a one-time person or whatever, but it's more like I started seeing like, wow, like my partners that I have chosen, or like relationships that I were in, they all shared the same thing. It was just a different face. And it's so crazy because like, what was it that I shared? Oh, okay. Like it was just unhealthy. It was abusive. Like it wasn't even that, but I would like water it down because that's what I was used to. So like my brothers were the first male figures because my dad wasn't around. And sorry. Okay. I don't know if you can edit that out. I think you can. But I know you can. But so like my brother, one of my brothers, he was so overprotective of me that it was just so unhealthy. Like so unhealthy, abusive. But he would say like I love you, like this is why, right? Tough love. So I carried that into adulthood, and every time like I would see that pattern, like I would see my brother and like in the men that I was with, and I was like, oh, it's okay, like it's just tough love or whatever, right? But it was just so unhealthy. So I've had to like really heal through that, and now I'm just so on high alert that like if I notice something that I dislike or that resembles like my childhood, I'm out like right away. And then like, but why? And I'm like, they're like, you didn't even get to know me. I don't want to get to know you because I know where it's going to go. But that's why it's so important to do the work with yourself.
Yes.
Like, please do the work within yourself, please.
Having such a strong self-awareness, because like once you become aware to things like, and I loved how you put that, it's the same personality but different face. So you kept on coming across that, and being Christian, being Catholic, God is going to keep putting you in the same test until you can finally understand like what it is He's trying to show you. And I think to be that vulnerable and see that like this isn't okay for me, and the association I have with this is almost as if I grew a sense of protection with it, because I knew if this emotional trigger happened or if this person had this, then that means my brother's going to be there. That means that's okay because it is tough love. And now this is what I think love is.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it's so important to understand that, like, where does some of the trauma come from? And it does come from childhood. And I think that when you're able to be more aware of that, then you realize the patterns that you're doing for yourself. Because when you see that you're doing the same thing, you'll be like, why does this keep happening? You have to really sit back and be like, okay, let me be aware. You have to first read the situation before you could ever grow as a person. You can't expect to have things just get given to you, because you have to give it to yourself first. You have to love yourself. I can't love myself, someone else, if I don't love myself first. Me and Tyler be saying this all the time. That goes for respect. That goes with understanding. That goes for tolerance, right? We have to understand that we are still kind of like a child. You know what I mean? We have our inner child, and we need to be able to nurture our inner child. You know, what is the things that, you know, make us like sing for, you know what I mean? What is something that I really appreciate, right? And when we are growing up, and if we were shown certain things, we get conditioned to think that this is just how life is. So with the tough love is almost something that I can relate to too, because I would think that love is a certain way. I've been raised with my mom and my grandma, so I had women in my life. And so I'm also a grandma's boy, by the way. I still love my mom though, still love her. But it's also, you know, not having the other balance, right, is could be a little bit detrimental because I don't have the other perspective. And so when it comes to going into relationships or even relationships with yourself, you think you just choose certain things and desensitize yourself because this is what you're used to. And we're so familiar with it. We just allow it to happen because I'm comfortable here. I'm used to this. And then we hear people might say, well, this is just how I was raised, or this is what I was taught. Well, after a while, you need to teach yourself new things. You need to break out of certain things so that you could grow as a person. Like sometimes if you metaphorically put yourself in a room, eventually you're going to grow out that room because, you know, you get furniture and all these other things, and you want to expand your horizon and know that you want other people in your room. Because I think that if you can't balance yourself as an individual, how are you going to be able to balance someone else in your life? You know what I mean? So it's kind of like a constant work within that inner work. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. And going back to when you were saying how, oh, there's really people out here that really think completely different. Like they literally are on autopilot. Like they don't see it. And that even goes back to the point where they get in certain relationships and they don't realize that they're going through the same thing again. And when you put yourself in the position, be like, oh, I'm not dealing with that real quick. That's great. Some people will be like, oh, you didn't even give them a chance, blah, blah. No, I already saw the chance that they were going to give me. You know what I mean? Because there's certain behaviors, there's certain ways that people carry themselves that says a lot about them. You know what I mean? And I think that the way people talk, their body language, what they listen to, what they do on their free time show their value system. So it's kind of like we need to understand that these habits that people do, it's a habit. You know how hard it is to break out of habits? Like waking up early in the morning. You know how hard that is? Sometimes it'd be like, oh, I don't want to wake up. And that's your ego, because your ego wants to be comfortable, or your pride. And it's kind of like you kind of want to, I like always saying it, put a name to that ego, right? Or put a name to that other person. So I
like
put
Martha.
Martha. You could say Martha. I was gonna say Willis for me. I've been Willis. Be quiet. I don't need to hear it. So it's kind of like you're always gonna have these thoughts. You have intrusive thoughts, and that's perfectly okay. But it's a matter about how do you respond after that. And I think that's really what's important.
Well, our most important relationships are with ourselves. And a lot of people, what they do, which everyone, I mean, I don't do this. Maybe I did it like once, but a lot of us subconsciously fall into the codependency thing. Like, I don't do this anymore, but I used to think that, like, oh, I need friends. Oh, I need a distraction. Like, even if I didn't drink, smoke, go out or whatever, I would use like other people's company as my distraction. And so this kind of stems off with like the independence thing, which I guess will fall into there. And it's crazy because so my mom, with her being a single mom, she was working all the time. So basically, like, my siblings were my parents. But then as they grow older, like, they did their own thing. But we all are like a year apart. So it goes 30, 29, 28, and then
Are you
26. I'm the youngest.
You're the youngest.
Yeah,
Got it. Okay.
yep. And then so it's so crazy because, like, I always had to be independent, not because I wanted to be, but because I was forced into independence. And I kind of like resonated with what you were saying about like your mom raising your grandma, because you most likely saw them in their masculine and not in their feminine. So you saw them in their independent woman era, right? Or like, but not because they wanted to, but because they had to be. They had to step up for, you know, like, I don't know, your dad wasn't there.
He wasn't.
Yeah.
We can talk about it.
No.
No shame.
Daddyless here. We're all daddyless. It's okay.
Yeah. Okay. So it's so crazy because, like, I learned that from my mom. And the thing is that I've had like a mom wound and a dad wound. So I had both like wounds for both characters, so I just didn't know who I was. And
Mhm.
for me, like, I saw my mom as a strong, independent woman, but like what I believe in now is I believe that women should fall into like under a man's wing, right? Like I believe in that now, but before I used to be like so hyped, like, yeah, like I'm an independent woman and all these things. And it is great because I know that I can rely on myself. Independent woman or not, like independent man, like anybody independent, you have to be able to rely on yourself. But then it also is nice to be like, dang, like somebody got me like that. Like I can fall under somebody, because that is truly what a tribe is. That's truly what a village is. So before I was always like, oh, I'm the lone wolf, like I'm this and that. But those are masculine traits and qualities and stuff. And honestly, like, will a wolf really survive by itself? No, like they need a whole pack. And
Yep.
I remember just thinking to myself, like, I would feed myself growing up, like young, I would make food for myself. And this is like an 8-year-old, like a younger kid and stuff. And I never really got to be a kid. So going off of what you were saying about the inner child thing, a lot of us are walking around still wounded children because we had this like generation of like where men or moms weren't there. Mostly I would say men. Statistically I would say,
You're right.
dads, like missing dads.
Yeah.
And not I love men, so I'm not attacking men.
Mhm.
But and now we're seeing like in today's society of like society is stripping away like masculine men, and like now women are being more independent, right? And then men are just in the back. And I'm like, we're all like, it's not a competition, it's complementary. Like we are complementary to each other, and that's how it works. And I'm discovering that probably within the couple years or whatever, but I'm so sharpened in this area that like I am independent, and I have had to be independent, not because I wanted to be, but because I was like forced into it or whatever. But I also have realized like how much more beautiful it is to just be in my feminine, because honestly that's how we're wired, what I believe that women are wired to be, because I'm at peace. Like I don't have to be constantly like providing. And so in like 2022, that was my most successful year with business, right? But that only happened because I was working like 60, 80 hours like a week, right? Like doing 6 events a week, like constantly, and bringing my daughter with me. That's not like a childhood for my daughter or whatever.
Right.
So this year in 2023, I was like, honestly, like I don't even care how much money I make this year. I just want to be present as a mom. And I got that. Like, and my relationship with my daughter has been like so solid that I love that. And it kind of reminds me of like, Kim, like, do you remember your mom working all the time? Like, I don't even remember like playing with my mom. She never played with me. I told her, I was like, did you ever play with me? She's like, no, I would just fall asleep and take naps and stuff. And I was like, I remember always being alone and playing with myself. And my siblings, they would like do their own thing because they were older, and I was the youngest, so they thought I wasn't really cool. So they just wouldn't play with me.
Right. Right.
But it's just so crazy to think that, because I have independent qualities, and I do think that it is good to be able to rely on yourself if you need to as just a person. But I also think that you're much more stronger as a woman. I believe women are more stronger when they're able to like lean on their men or lean on their community. And that's what I truly think about independence.
That
I
was
know
a
that was a lot. I'm so
no,
sorry.
no. It
No,
was
it's
it was a great answer, especially
yeah.
because I relate to that because I had half siblings on my dad's side mainly, but I only grew up with my grandmother. So my grandmother, like especially once we moved to Springfield, she stopped working. So then when she stopped working, like if I didn't have company over, I was always by myself. So always having to be self sustainable and even self entertaining because you're there by yourself. So you start developing, let's say, naming a personality for your other side, or maybe the voice in your mind, and also being able to find new hobbies that you may like and things that you may not like. But it's beautiful when you could like be in peace with that, but then also come back to them and be like, hey, like, did this ever happen? Because now that I have a little bit of a better relationship with my mom, like I remember I never really used to talk to her like that. I remember I used to tell Angel like I don't really be around my mom. And now that I'm older, 25, it's like I never would have thought that I'd be able to have a conversation with my mom. And that makes everything better because despite everything that happens, you're able to forgive, and now let's grow and move on. And like how you did, you deleted pictures that you didn't want to see, and now it's like, no, it's time for the new year, time for a new me, time for new life, and that's all I'm going to continue focusing on.
Yeah, honestly, I took a deep breath because everything you said was kind of like spot on, like
Yeah.
bullseye. Because I completely agree. As in the man's perspective, I do agree with everything you say. I think that as roles, there's a role that a man plays, and then there's a role that a woman plays, and we complement each other. There's certain things that women are good at, and there's certain things that guys are good at, and vice versa. So I think that having that perspective is so important. I think the society that we live in, desensitizes that, oh, we don't need men or we don't need women. It's like, who said
It's
that?
scary.
It
It's
is.
so
It
scary.
really is scary though.
It's a very scary time to be alive. And
Yep.
it's so crazy because like a lot of people last year were like, Kim, like where have you been? Like all these things, because I used to spend a lot of time like at networking events. I used to do events like all the time, and like my mom would take care of Mia, or like she would go with her dad. And I don't want her to have those memories of like I was choosing work over her.
Mm.
And although that I was making please edit this.
You're good. I had a couple too. It's okay. And Tyler too. We're in
You
this
can
together.
edit this, right?
It's okay.
Okay.
Look, this is natural.
Hold
This
on.
is the best part.
You said what?
This
So we
is
did it
natural.
together.
This is the best part is the fact that we cough, we breathe, sometimes we
normal. Yeah.
sneeze. We're normal.
Yeah. So
Okay,
nothing is
Kanye.
rehearsed. No.
Yeah, nothing's rehearsed, right?
Dang, what was I saying? I was saying, oh, yeah, so I made the choice to fall back into like my femininity because I never knew what femininity was, because I was always the independent woman. So I've been doing like the business on my own and stuff. Like I do everything. I did have my best friend, she was my bookkeeper for some time, and then I hired a couple people, but most of the time it's been me. And I actually made a choice in 2023 to homeschool my daughter. So I chose that, and that's a huge like pay cut, right? Because I could be spending time making money, but I didn't want that anymore. I didn't want to just work for money because, yeah, like it's cool to work and have money and like to save it and stuff. But I saw that there was a greater need within like my home, and honestly, like I wanted to give back to my home. Like I didn't want it to be an empty space, like where I rush home at nighttime and then we just go to sleep. So
Right.
I chose to do that. And honestly, like in my opinion, I don't think the school system is good right now. So I wanted to do the homeschooling and stuff because I
Fair.
get to be there for my daughter and I get to see. I'm the one teaching her. I'm her teacher, and obviously like her father when he does it with her. But I think that there has to be a greater purpose, and I have been like the most fulfilled during this time frame because sometimes we think that we hit that rock bottom and then like we're born again, right? And then it's done. No, like I'm constantly being reborn again over and over. Like I just had like a reborn stage 3 months ago, and now I'm like reborn again. I was like, dang, I thought it was done. And it's like, no, you're never done. Like your healing
Right.
is never finished. Like things are gonna come up where you're like, oh, I thought I was healed from that. And it's like, oh no, I see it again. And you're like, no, like, and it could be years. Like trauma doesn't really leave. So that's why it's constant. Like it's necessary to like consistently be working on yourself and working on yourself. And maybe you can have your tribe around you and your people. But when you're alone, like actually be grateful that you're in your own space, because I also used to crave not being alone because I was so triggered by it because I was always alone and stuff. So now when I go home, I don't feel lonely anymore. I don't feel like I dread driving home. I'm actually, like I get to spend time with me and like really sharpen me.
Yeah.
Because obviously if you want somebody, you want to like be attracted to somebody who, correlates to what you are as a person. Not like the same exact thing if you don't want to date yourself. But,
Right.
a lot of people will say like, oh, like I want this and that, like from a partner. But are you even doing that with yourself? Like, are you? Because some people want all these things and they have this huge like wish list, but they're not even doing it within themselves. So your most important relationship, I would say, is with yourself and the spiritual. Like if you are spiritual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I'm
Just,
sorry.
no, you're saying a
Kim,
lot of great things.
Kim is saying real
I'm
stuff
taking a
today.
breath because it's like I'm.
Yeah. Okay.
I am taking a breath because I really appreciate that you have that mindset, because there's a lot of people that don't, and especially like women, at least the women that I've came across before in the past, and to know that there are women like you, that's awesome. And I think it's also the fact of balancing everything out. Too much of something that could be good for you can actually be bad for you. It needs to be a little bit back and forth to balance it. And I think when it comes to being independent, you don't want to be too independent and you don't want to be too codependent. You want to be right in the middle. And then also bringing back the fact that, you know, a lot of people ask for certain things but can't even give it to themselves. And it's kind of like you need to be able to do that so you can know that you can give it to yourself. And if you get it from someone else, it's just like a cherry on top.
Right, yeah.
So I really love how this conversation is going. And I think that we can talk for hours. I be saying it to Tyler all the time. We can talk for days. One thing that me and Tyler like doing is every time we have a guest, we ask them 4 questions that are pretty much personalized to you. So you can answer it to a 1-word minimum to a sentence maximum. You could go over. It's okay. But I'm going to ask you your first question. So the first question is, would you rather be feared or loved?
As in, like, people fearing me?
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, no. I would rather be loved. Like, I love love.
You love loved?
Yeah.
Is there a specific reason why? Because some people think feared and some people think loved. Why would you say love?
I think that it's just in our biology to want to be loved. And naturally for me as a woman, I think, again, I just think that when we feel loved, we feel appreciated. And I mean, like, I never thought to myself, I want people to fear me. Like, that's kind of like a masculine trait. But also, too,
right.
like, but I have fell into that. But I no longer live there anymore.
Got you. Yeah. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
So second question is, what is the best advice you ever received?
Just do it.
Just do it. Nike.
Yeah.
Okay, Nike.
And just start anywhere, because people want to, like, start when it's perfect, but it's never going to be perfect. So start in the mess.
Right.
And then watch.
I love that, because one quote that comes to mind is that stop trying to find every right moment and make every moment right.
Right. Yeah.
So, I love that. So next question would be, what is the worst advice you ever received?
The worst advice? I'll do it later. There's no later.
Procrastination.
Yeah.
You never know, too. So that
do it later. The time is always now. So I've heard, like, oh, you could just start later. You could just do it next time. You don't even know if there's a next time. So just do it now. Now is always the time.
Got it. Okay. Love that. And for the last question, it would be, if you were to make one rule or law that everyone had to follow, what would that be?
I don't know.
It's okay.
If I had to make a law?
Any law, yeah.
A golden rule.
It's going to have to be, like, treat others the way that you want to be treated. Like, and
that's fair.
And have empathy. Really, it's just really about empathy. So scratch the other one. Just say everybody has to empathize with everybody, because we come from different backgrounds that might not align to each other. That doesn't mean that you should rate people off because of your background.
Right. Yeah, I love that. Everybody. Kim Prada.
Thank you.
Yes.
That was such a great connection.
Honestly, I love how this conversation was going. I'm sorry, Tyler, but I had to rub it in your face. So we got some.
We do ship to Texas, though.
Oh,
there you go.
Okay.
This is my first time trying it, and I want everyone to experience this with me.
What flavor?
You better not pretend either.
Well, no, I don't pretend this. No, I would never.
Oh, no, if there's one thing about me and Angel, we love sweet treats, but we also just love enjoying and giving good quality taste and recommendations.
Okay.
I'm not Gordon Ramsay, so I won't be that critical with anything. But
Stop it!
Wait, this has good security.
Oh, it has staples on it. I'm so
staples?
Sorry.
Oh
no.
Yeah, staple to go with your cupcake.
You know, that's good security, though.
I'm
See,
so sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm gonna take my time.
Strong boy.
You know, I'm gonna grab this one.
Oh, that is what I'm. Let me see.
This one.
That's not the number one, but you should.
Smells good. All right, so I got the tri-flight, right?
Yep.
So you're able to get
So you're about
4
to fly?
assortments. I might fly. I might feel holy after it. 'Cause these are organic ingredients, so everything here is healthy, and it gives you power. So I'm ready to get some power. So, and I'll always love. I think this is peanut butter, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Interesting. I love me some peanut butter.
Okay, go.
Okay, go. All right, bet. I'm gonna try it.
Oh,
do you taste
valid.
ASMR. Mm.
Don't forget to breathe. Don't forget to breathe because of perfection. Yep.
No, this is busting.
Mm-hmm. Bet. Yeah, Kim, I'm gonna have to order
M&Ms
my.
in here? Okay, there's M&Ms.
There's M&Ms in there. Stop.
Thankfully,
Stop.
I'm not allergic to anything, which makes it
Mm.
way easier and just better.
I am thankful because right now
Yeah.
it's busting.
The best part about it is that you said organic because if I had to read a whole list of ingredients like they be having in the stores now,
That's
oh
scary.
gosh, like I got to read a paragraph before I even see this cook. Crazy.
Hold on.
Yeah,
This is really good.
don't forget to wash it down with some milk.
Oh yeah,
Almond
yeah,
milk.
yeah. Oat milk.
This is okay. Okay, hold on. This is the full experience. I'm just saying. I got water right here. By the way, I love peanut butter, but this is like it could also be a dessert. So you can have this on the go. They're like, think of it like munchkins, right? But these are way better than munchkins. I don't even want to compare it. Matter of fact, that's disrespectful.
It is.
So, but just to get the concept, you guys are just listening. It's kind of just like that. And they come in a whole container. If you get the flight size, you could get bags. There's a whole website. We'll make sure that is down in the description. But yeah, no, that's just one of them. I got strawberries and cream. I got dark fantasy because
wait,
Kanye.
Is there a cinnamon one? If there's a cinnamon one,
the one that he has is the white chocolate cinnamon roll.
Oh, is this one?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Tyler.
That's the one that you.
I'm sorry, Tyler.
That one is like our number one. Like,
see, because what? Okay, yeah, that's probably my number one.
You're so humble because you said that is your number one because I only had one and that feels like my number one. Okay. They might just all be number ones.
It's like preference.
Okay, hold on.
Well, hey, I got a better question because I know Angel loves mangoes. Is there a mango flavored one?
There is not, but I made a pina colada one over the summer. It was pretty good.
Ooh, so you have season themed editions?
Yeah, I have seasonal ones. So right now it's the strawberries and cream one for Valentine's Day, right? And then we just had our peppermint mocha for the winter season.
Everybody, you gotta get some Tri Power Bites because if you don't, you're literally missing out. Shout out to Tyler, you're missing out. Unless you could buy something, what I'm saying.
What do you think I'm gonna do after this? Like,
I think honestly, you should just come over right now, and
book a flight.
Yeah.
I mean,
this is a flight.
It's not a bad idea, but you know how long it may take to book a flight.
Take a flight for a flight. You feel me?
I like that.
Oh
man. Okay, and it also says here, fueling a tribe of go-getters, one bite at a time.
Look at that, and you got a quote or affirmation to help give you some confidence. Like, who doesn't like that?
What? Everybody, again, Kim Prada.
Thank you.
Yeah, guys, we appreciate you guys. I think this was an awesome conversation. If there's anything that you learned from this, please leave and also comment down below if there's anything that we haven't talked about enough yet and you want us to talk about more about. Who knows, there might have to be a part 2 because you were saying a lot of things. I'm just like, hold on. Give me a second. I need to process this. So, yeah, but we appreciate you guys. Make sure that you follow us on Instagram. Until next time, one step at a time and also one bite if you get some, Power Tri Bites.
And don't forget, one day at a time. Take it easy, but take that step.
Peace.